There has been a new revelation today that has everyone talking. Lifelong bandmate Bill Wyman's lifelong friend and guitarist Ronnie Wood has broken his silence to reveal disturbing details about Wyman. Typically carefree, the Stones' apparently unshakable reputation has taken a hit due to the drama, tension, and revelations unleashed by Wood's forthright remarks. It's no secret that Bill Wyman, who played bass for the Rolling Stones from 1962 to 1993, has long been a mystery. However, Wood claims that a man who was hard to please lurks beneath the placid, gloomy facade. Wood disclosed Wyman's history of passive-aggressive disputes, which made dealing with him an absolute misery for years. Imagine the Rolling Stones in the studio, losing themselves in their music until Wyman's scathing critiques choked them. Painted Wyman in a negative light when they said he was a perfectionist. Actually, Wyman's perfectionism was the root cause of the friction that eventually severed ties with the band. There was more to Wood's complaints. He felt Wyman consistently disregarded his ideas and guitar skills, which he said was his contribution to the band. Over time, what began as small arguments became into a profound animosity, a divide that Wood attributes to Wyman's deliberate encouragement. Wood claimed that Wyman's coldness was due more to a bloated ego than timidity, implying that he enjoyed being the odd man out. There is much more to Bill Wyman's prickly personality than what Ron Wood has revealed in his honest statements. A more complex and explosive dynamic that has been building for decades is shown by the bassist's long-running disagreements with Mick Jagger, the charismatic but divisive lead singer of the Rolling Stones. Imagine two guys, each with his own unique style of music and leadership, engaged in a never-ending battle for dominance. One side has Jagger, the colossal showman who has an unwavering vision for the band's future and a keen commercial acumen. Contrarily, there was Wyman, the painstaking perfectionist who resented being pushed to the side and who frequently felt like an afterthought in the system he had helped create. It was more than just a debate about art. Wyman and Jagger fought over issues of respect and identity. He allegedly found Jagger's leadership approach to be too autocratic, and he often griped about the singer's intransigence when it came to considering other points of view. Consider the power dynamic within the Rolling Stones during their peak. Jagger and Keith Richards were unquestionably at the center, while the remaining members of the band frequently felt like bystanders in a drama over which they had no say. But Wyman would not recede into the shadows. An air of tension pervaded the group as a result of his persistent need to be heard, which frequently led him into confrontation with Jagger. In 1978, when they were already experiencing a great deal of internal strife, their relationship reached a boiling point while they were recording Some Girls. Wyman, who was excited to show off his songwriting skills, performed a song he thought would be popular. Jagger, however, received him with quick and violent rejection rather than support. Imagine the setting. Standing before Jagger, Wyman's pride was on the line, yet his effort was disregarded without a second thought. The embarrassment hurt like hell, and Wyman's wrath sprang up just as quickly. He said that Jagger didn't regard the band members as equals, but rather as employees whose only purpose was to fulfill his artistic demands. Things became heated very fast. The studio was filled with the sound of raised voices, as Wyman and Jagger got into an escalating yelling war that shocked everyone around. It wasn't merely about a song. It was about the pent-up animosity Wyman had carried for so long, stemming from his sense that his efforts were underappreciated and that his presence was ignored. The remark caused shockwaves through the close-knit group when Wyman threatened to leave the band in a fit of rage. The battle served as a sobering reminder to onlookers that the Stones' triumph was born out of intense inner strife. Even though Wyman remained a member of the band for an additional 15 years, the wounds from that disagreement were still fresh. Wyman remained emotionally aloof and became more critical of Jagger's leadership. Thus, their relationship never really got back on track. Despite the public's perception of the Rolling Stones as a united front, Jagger and Wyman's separation remained an open wound while they confidently conquered the world stage. In interviews, Wyman frequently vented his displeasure, presenting Jagger as an authoritarian who put his own agenda ahead of everyone else. Even though Wyman despised Jagger's power, the band's success hinged on it. This irony was not lost on anyone who knew them. The Stones were able to weather the decades of fluctuating musical trends thanks to Jagger's dogged determination and acute intuition, which took them into unexplored terrain. That achievement, however, was not without cost to Wyman. He became more and more dissatisfied with life as a Rolling Stone as time went on, which served as a continual reminder that Mick Jagger's towering ego could overshadow even genius. Simon's fractious personality permeated practically every facet of his existence, and it didn't stop with the Rolling Stones. Even outside of the band's inner circle, he was divisive due to his tendency to question authority and his stubborn, frequently contrarian attitude. One of his most public feuds began in the mid-1980s with the famed music producer Andrew Oldum, who was instrumental in the early success of the Rolling Stones. Think of this bearded man, colliding with Wyman, who was just as stubborn and unyielding as the charismatic yet infamously strong-willed personality. Their professional relationship took a nosedive when their flamboyant personalities ran head-on into each other. Oldum, who had managed the Stones through their incredible climb, characterized collaborating with Wyman as a fruitless endeavor. It wasn't just a few occurrences where Wyman questioned choices and undermined authority. Oldum was irritated by the reoccurring motif. Reportedly, he asserted that the studio environment became poisonous due to Wyman's persistent doubts about his abilities, which in turn impeded production. Imagine a band performing at its peak, bursting at the seams with unbridled creativity and talent, only to have their train of thought halted by a controlling individual. One of the biggest rumored controversies of that era was their quarrel, a story unfolding in the shadows that exposed the fissures in the apparently impenetrable base of the Stone. However, that was just half of the story. The other half was the professional fallout. Much outside the rock community, Wyman's private decisions sparked indignation and incredulity, making his personal life a veritable labyrinth of scandal. One of the most notorious scandals in rock and roll history occurred in 1989 when he wed Mandy Smith. The headlines were inflammatory, not merely provocative. Reportedly, Wyman started seeing Smith when she was 13 years old, a fact that shocked the public and the music industry alike. Imagine the scandal that would ensue if a 40-year-old rock star openly pursued a girl who was just a teenager. Many others found it to be absolutely inexcusable, not to mention quite controversial. Immediate and devastating consequences ensued. Everyone from fans to critics was quick to criticize Wyman's actions, but the incident had an internal impact on the Rolling Stones as well. The band has been through plenty of controversy before, but this one really got under their skin. The mood inside the group became noticeably tense as multiple individuals allegedly expressed their disgust in private. It was difficult for some members of the band to get over the incident because it was both a public relations disaster and a personal betrayal. The harm was beyond repair for Wyman. His image, which was already tarnished by his distant and aggressive demeanor, nearly took a devastating blow. Even his former allies started to distance themselves from him once the media portrayed him as a morally bankrupt man. The unmoved, almost rebellious Wyman betrayed no signs of fear. The connection had been above board and consenting, he claimed, but that didn't stop the criticism. An already tainted career was further marred by the incident, which left an indelible mark on his legacy. In retrospect, Wyman's darker sides, incessant desire to question authority, stubborn refusal to compromise, and trouble navigating personal boundaries were clearly defining characteristics, not merely character defects. Their convoluted legacy is a result of the alienation they caused among collaborators, friends, and even admirers. A painful reminder that brilliance frequently comes at a heavy price. For every moment of genius he brought to the Stones, there was an equally distressing moment of disharmony. As the Rolling Stones solidified their position as rock gods through international tours, Wyman appeared inseparable from the band's spirit that made them unique. Consider the infamous late-night jam sessions, wild parties, and boundless inside jokes that the Rolling Stones would engage in while performing. Nevertheless, Wyman frequently preferred to work alone, meticulously recording information about the band's past or analyzing financial spreadsheets. Some thought it was just a quirk of his personality, but others took it as evidence that he couldn't form genuine relationships with his bandmates. This seclusion wasn't coincidental, according to Ron Wood's latest remarks. According to Wood, Wyman created an air of mystery by isolating himself and refusing to connect with the rest of the band on a human basis. According to reports, Wyman allegedly maintains icy relations with many Stones members, including Wood, even after departing the band for decades. You can't discount Wyman's impact on the Rolling Stones sound just because of his troublesome personality. Paint It Black and Jumpin' Jack Flash relied on his bass lines, and his methodical approach to music gave them an accuracy that few other bands could match. There was a heavy price to pay for those accomplishments, as Ron Wood's findings demonstrate. Fans and critics alike are still divided by Wyman's difficult legacy, which is shaped by his confrontational temperament and personal issues. While Ron Wood's frank remarks dominate headlines, fans are confronted with the shadowy side of their beloved band's past. Rock and roll may be the Rolling Stones' middle name, but the band's history is rife with infighting, strained relationships, and unsolved conflicts. Despite his many accomplishments, Bill Wyman continues to divide opinion due to his infamous inability to get along with people. However, as Wood's surprising disclosures demonstrate, not all wounds can be healed.